Sponsored by the Glass Jug. Located just off State Road 55 in Durham, the Glass Jug is the only place in the Triangle where you can browse a selection of hundreds of different craft beers, sit and enjoy one of 16 different beers on tap, and then take home a counter-pressure-filled growler of your favorite draft beer. Their growler filling technology ensures beer freshness and carbonation for much longer than growlers filled from the tap. Join the Glass Jug for free tasting events every Thursday at 5 p.m. We'll see you at the Glass Jug.
Hi, I'm Glenn. Dave is not behind the camera today. We pulled him around to the other side of the camera today because we're doing a combination video today. And welcome to NCBeerBuzz. And it'll also be kind of like one of our Monday videos where we'll drink some beer, but we'll not be at Dave's kitchen counter today. We found our way down to the wonderful Raleigh Brewing Company on Neal Street in Raleigh, just off of Hillsborough, across from Meredith College. If you've not had a chance to be at Raleigh Brewing, you need to find your way down here and experience all the great beer they've got coming out of Raleigh Brewing Company. And you can enjoy all of them here in the tap room. Alex Smith is the brewer here. He's joined us today, and we're going to talk about the Miller's Toll, which is just coming out, and it is this year's Miller's Toll, and then we're also going to drink a vertical of last year's Miller's Toll, both the regular oatmeal and also the bourbon barrel aged.
Exactly.
Good, good. So let's get started. We'll drink as we talk. Thanks for having us in.
Well, thank you guys for coming.
You be the expert and pour us.
Absolutely.
Now, as our fans know about Raleigh Brewing, you're not the original brewer here. You've been in how long now?
I've been here since the beginning.
Okay.
I started as kind of one of the original brewers in Cellarman, working with John Federal.
Right.
John Federal left us right around March of this year.
Okay.
So I've kind of taken the helm since then.
So you were very familiar with all the recipes and everything that was going on. It wasn't a big leap in some way.
No, and really all of the processes we had in place, all of the recipes were really kind of cultivated together, so it was an incredibly easy transition for us.
Good, good.
So we were very lucky in that regard to have kind of an opening team that was very kind of worked very well together and kind of did everything mutually. So there wasn't a whole lot of kind of missteps when we had to.
Well, it makes it easier that you've already there as opposed to having to come in and learn all the new equipment.
Exactly. And, you know, the protocols, knowing the people, it really was about as easy as it could have been.
That's awesome.
And for our folks who don't know, what is your background before Raleigh Brewing existed?
So I worked, I'm actually fairly young, so I'm only 27 now. After I graduated college, my wife and I actually moved to Vietnam for about a year and a half. Prior to that, I worked in homebrew shops kind of consistently throughout college. My passion was homebrewing. I would, especially around senior year, typically skip class to brew beer at home and kind of just cross my fingers that it would pay off. And luckily for me, it did. So after we returned from Vietnam, I knew I wanted to be in the beer business. My wife had some family in North Carolina, and it was kind of just the perfect fit for us. So we found ourselves in Raleigh, and then I found myself here at Raleigh Brewing Company.
Okay. So let's start with the beer. Now this would be this is this
year's. So
Imperial or
it is. So this is an Imperial Oatmeal Stout. This one is not bourbon barrel aged. It's just kind of straight.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about oatmeal stout in general.
Yeah. So
how should it be?
This, really, it is very much an American imperial stout with an English twist. It is very bold, very brash. Pretty much all of the flavors are very explosive to begin with. So I like this beer, and kind of as we go, we'll see the transition. It's huge when it's young. It's still great, but you get a lot of this rich coffee, some cocoa, this huge rich mouthfeel.
Great aroma too in this beer.
Yeah, but you have a lot of these kind of high points in the beer, as you guys will kind of find.
So should the oatmeal kind of smooth it out though? Or?
It adds a lot of body, and it acts as kind of a binder because we use 3 different roasted malts. And it kind of helps to tie those points together. We have chocolate malt in there, we have roasted barley, and then we have black malt as well. So we've got kind of sharp roast, we've got the more gentle roast, and then we've also got that big chocolate character.
It's got a beautiful roasted aroma.
The aroma is great.
It's got you'll notice it's got a fair amount of bitterness on the finish.
Right.
Really, this beer is brewed to last. So I really like it when it's young. It is fairly extreme when it's young, and it becomes much more graceful with age.
But this is excellent.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is. It's
for the right palate, they'll love this.
Yep,
just as it is.
Yep, and you get a lot of that, almost like the kind of baker's cocoa, that powdery cocoa character,
and that chocolate bitterness.
Yep,
that's right.
Yep.
There.
And that's really one of the big things that we release it, and when it's fresh, it has a fairly assertive bitterness. And we kind of brew it that way because over time that's going to go down. That bitterness is a crucial counterpoint in the beer. There is a lot of inherent sweetness just because of all the specialty malts that we use.
Right.
So we want to start with almost a little over bitterness, and then over even a couple of months into a couple of years, that'll gracefully die down, and you'll kind of get a nice melding of all these.
So this is where you would encourage people to lay down and save. And
absolutely, and it's brewed as such. So that's not to demerit when it's fresh, because I think all beers that are even brewed to cellar, you have to have a starting point.
Sure.
You need to try it fresh so you know what it is that you're actually
And frankly,
cellaring.
most people do drink it right away.
Yeah.
So you can't really put something on the market that's only made to cellar. Even though it may get better and better over time.
Yep.
But most beer drinkers are going to have to try it.
Exactly.
Fresh. Even if they buy one bottle and drink, put a bottle away.
Yeah.
Sounds like
that's
that's what I do.
Yeah. We only have so much self-control, and it does. I kind of say that to some of our accounts sometimes, and it comes off as like a gimmicky marketing tactic, but it really isn't. Like, don't buy one beer to cellar, because you have no idea that beer could currently be at its peak.
Right.
That beer could be 6 months from its peak, but if you have no baseline to go off, then you have no idea of kind of the fun part of the cellaring process is how does it change?
Well, that's one of the things that I've done in the past is, I get the bottle, I'm like, oh great, I got the bottle.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't want to touch it because it was hard enough to get the bottle.
Yeah.
So I put it away, but I'm like, I say you have 3 years worth, but I don't know what they taste like.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
you don't know
I
what
could
it
do
tastes like originally to compare them either.
Right.
You don't know how they've aged, nicely or otherwise.
Right.
Because if you're all about laying up and cellaring,
Yep.
you don't experience what we just experienced, which is wonderful.
Right.
And one of the saddest things in kind of the beer cellaring world is you have this wonderful beer that you spent a lot of money on, you maybe waited in a long line for, and you've waited for so long for that perfect moment. The perfect moment comes, and it's past its prime. And it's like heartbreaking, and you have a much better idea of how that beer is going to kind of age and grow if you at least set a baseline. So that's kind of what we're doing with this.
So the other beer would be this year's, but Imperial.
No, it's all the Imperial.
This one's barrel aged.
Barrel.
This one is barrel aged.
Oh, okay.
So this is just a vintage. This is what. So this one was packaged in January of this year. So this one's got about 11 months, and we actually we age it in the brewery for about 2 months in the tanks as well.
Even before it's put out fresh.
Yeah, because again, you've got a lot of brash flavors, and when this beer is very young, like a week or two, you have all of those same flavors, but they're not well integrated. You get roast, and then chocolate, and then bitterness. So we typically let it settle in our bright tank for at least a couple of weeks, just to let everything kind of become a little more cohesive. So you'll notice
the pour is much different.
Yep.
Different aroma.
The aroma is going to be different. This is still got. We actually we use a fair amount of late hopping in this beer. It's all EKG, so it's kind of a weird. It's also got oatmeal, so it's really not an American Imperial Stout. It's not a British Imperial Stout. It's a Raleigh Imperial Stout. Yeah.
Right.
So you get a lot more of that kind of woody, spicy hop aroma in this. This one is obviously much more chocolate and roast oriented.
Yep.
You get maybe a slight bit of the we're starting to get some of those nice little leathery.
But it's so mellow now and balanced.
And the chocolate is
the
more
sweetness
pronounced.
comes from.
Yep.
Because that initial greenness, for lack of a better word, or newness is gone.
Exactly.
And it's now more balanced. And this, for me, is a better drink than the first one.
Yep. And again, in this one, you get which
I thought was wonderful. But this is also,
you get kind of peaks in when it's fresh. You know, everything hasn't kind of settled into its own. This is kind of one integrated flavor.
Right.
And the mouthfeel is lighter on this. Mm-hmm. Is that typical with aging?
With this one, I'm not really sure why that is, to be honest.
Do you agree or not?
I do. Okay. I do. The carbonation is also a little bit lower, so that may have something to do with it because it was in a growler.
Right.
That may be the kind of primary thing. And we also there is kind of the potential where over time some of the proteins. So we use about 12% oats in this beer, which brings a lot of protein to the beer. Those can settle out over time, and those definitely do aid in some of that kind of viscosity. And but what's interesting is, as we'll try in the barrel-aged version, it's got plenty of body. But some of that is also, it can be pulling kind of some oils from the wood, and there's really a lot of different factors that contribute to the body of a beer.
And what about the barrels? How do you guys procure those?
We have a couple of different brokers that we work with. We have really just...
Are they hard to find? Because we hear different versions of barrels are hard to get.
Yeah, there are definitely. I mean, there's only a limited number of spirit producers. Brewers recently are very lucky because bourbon has been growing almost at the exact same, if not a even faster pace than craft beer.
So the barrels will catch up.
Yeah. Now, the thing with bourbon barrels is there are a bunch of very historical secondary markets for them. All the Scotch and Irish whiskey producers typically bring on bourbon barrels because bourbon is unique in that the barrels can only be used once for it to be called bourbon. So in Kentucky, we have a ready supply of these fresh, wonderful barrels.
Used bourbon barrels.
Once used. And that's why typically that's going to be the most common barrel-aged barrel that you see.
Because as our viewers we sometimes drink something that's been in a wine barrel or a Chardonnay, and sometimes there's a rum barrel involved. I mean, you can do all kinds of barrel aging, and even different woods in the barrels, and there's all kinds of barrels, so don't think that always something that's barrel-aged is bourbon barrel-aged. You need to know what barrel it came out of.
Because that's going to have a big flavor contribution. So something that's interesting, we do another barrel-aged beer. It's actually a series called Raleigh Wood, which you guys may be familiar with.
Yep.
So the concept there is it's one recipe. That beer recipe is the same from year to year, but it's aged in a different type of barrel.
Okay.
So first year was Four Roses bourbon barrels. This year it's actually going to be Cruzon rum barrels.
Oh, wow.
However, those Cruzon rum barrels are stamped Jim Beam Distilling Company.
Okay.
Because Cruzon, again, it doesn't need to be a first-use barrel. They buy their barrels from Jim Beam. They age their rum in it for a number of years. And then once that barrel is spent for their purposes, so really it's starting to lose some of its wood component. Then they'll get rid of it to a broker or some sort of secondary market. And some of the barrels we got actually had a pound or two of wood chips in them that Cruzon had added to the barrel to bring back some of that that oak character.
Wow. Before we go to the third, tell us about the name Miller's Toll. Where did this come from? Raleigh always does a great job of naming their beers some connection to Raleigh.
Yeah, so this one is named kind of around, we'll say, Yates Mill. Very historical mill. I believe it's one of the oldest this side of the Mississippi, if I'm not mistaken. And the concept is kind of, even 100 years ago, there was typically one or two mills in town. Everyone would bring their harvested wheat or whatever grain it was to this one mill, and they would make all of the flour for the town. So people didn't have their own mill. They didn't have their own, grinder or anything like that. But obviously, to make a living, the miller would charge a toll or a fee for his basically per pound.
That's right.
Yeah, and the kind of tie-in we had there is This beer is huge. It uses by far, I mean, it uses about a town's worth of grain per batch. So that's kind of where we discern the name, and we actually just did the release party on Friday and had some of the folks from Yates Mill, including their miller, out to kind of just talk about what they do, and it's still a functioning mill. So
it has nothing to do with 540 or anything.
No. We took it back just a little farther than that. Absolutely. So yeah, let's.
While you're opening, you can do two things at once.
I can.
We want to tell our viewers about, of course, and remind them that here on premises at Raleigh Brewing Company, there's also the other adjunct side of the business, the Atlantic Brew Supply, which is a huge part of what they do here, and they do a great job of that side as well. For all your homebrew supplies or your winery supplies or whatever kind of brewing or home beverage making you might choose to do, and that is just such a huge component of the business here. And if you are a home brewer like we are, it's great to come in and sit here and drink some beer, or maybe go over there first and get your supplies, put them in the truck, and come in here and drink, and it's just a great component to have it right here on premises.
Yeah, well, and I got to say, from my side, it's great as well, because really all three of the brewers that we have, including myself, came from home brewing roots. It kind of keeps us in connection with the home brewing side. We do release a different small batch every Tuesday, which is actually brewed on my old homebrew system.
Okay.
So we still very much have roots in that, and to be able to have the shop next door, we try and do as much as we can. We have the Carolina Quarterly Brew Off, where we actually, at the end of the year, the winner of that yearly competition brews a full-size commercial batch. Right. Yeah, and they can have their beer distributed throughout town. So it really is, it's easy for a professional brewer to kind of almost go beyond home brewing, where it's like, that's what I used to do. It's not, you can lose that kind of sense of adventure and experimentation. Having a shop for us next door definitely keeps us honest, and it keeps us kind of immersed in that world of kind of being continuously inspired and trying to push the envelope. And we have easy access to new ingredients.
That's great.
I mean, craft brewers, I don't think, they're not the only ones doing innovative things. The hop growers and the maltsters are also
the industry
rising to that occasion. Right. So we are kind of, by having the homebrew shop right next door, we're kind of right next door to all of that. So it gives us the opportunity to do a lot of experimentation and continue to kind of improve and evolve our craft.
And Patrick wouldn't forgive us if we didn't also mention that Atlantic Brew Supply is not just a home brew shop.
That's right.
It's a big brewery shop.
It is.
You can open your brewery in conjunction with Atlantic Brew Supply.
He supplies the larger breweries.
Any size tank or equipment you want. They can flesh out your whole big brewery too. It's just not for guys just to come in and do their 5 and 10 gallon batches.
Absolutely.
Supplies. They sell all kinds of huge equipment and can work on you with contracting, specs, mechanisms.
Yep.
They can do the whole shebang.
Well, and really, Raleigh Brewing Company was Atlantic Brew Supply Commercial's first company.
Right.
So that's one of the things, again, to go back to that kind of symbiosis, what's wonderful about the arrangement is we brew on the equipment every day. And
you know what it is.
We know what it is, and we also work with them to continuously evolve the equipment. Because, wouldn't it be great if this was moved here, or if we added this?
Or if it worked like this instead of like it does.
Right.
And we can also allow some of our customers or people who are even kind of new to commercial brewing but know they want to get into the industry, they can come in and brew a batch with us and kind of shadow us and
see how the stuff works before they actually have to have an experience.
Yeah, and see that it does work, and see kind of the proof of concept and walk in and see the brewery in the tasting room. And it definitely, I think, has a big impact on especially the people who definitely want to get into the business but don't really know where to start.
Sure.
And before we get away from that subject, we were brought a gift, and we're not going to take time to open it on camera. We'd like to do that, but we're not going to do that. We're going to let you explain it to us. This is a homebrew kit.
It is.
So that we can take home, and it is a kit of the Miller's Toll.
Yes. So another kind of synchronicity between us. We offer all of our commercial recipes from Raleigh Brewing Company available as clone recipes on a 5-gallon scale. So that's in extract or all grain.
So Dave can take this home and see if he can make it taste like this.
I should hope so.
Without the
I hope he could.
Yeah, we hope so too. We'll see.
What's brewing?
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
Well, cheers, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Oh, now this.
Let's see now.
So this,
You're getting the barrel.
you get a lot of the barrel. So you get kind of sweet caramel and bourbon. You get some of that.
One of our complaints sometimes is with bourbon barrel aged is that it's more bourbon than beer.
Mm-hmm.
And this doesn't seem to be the case in the aroma. You pick up some bourbon,
Yep.
but still the beer's behind it, and you know
Yep.
what it is.
Yep.
Am I going to find this more bourbon? Now, see, Dave's particularly not a bourbon fan.
Yep.
I like it when it's balanced.
Yes.
If it's
But you're not
balanced,
much
it's
for one.
wonderful.
Agreed.
But when you have an overload of it, and like you said, you're basically drinking beer-colored bourbon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I didn't buy bourbon.
On purpose.
Right. I want to have the beer that has the essence and the extra flavor of bourbon.
Yeah.
But don't take away from the other principles of beer.
Yep. I completely agree. And actually, we had this side by side with another popular brand, which I will not name, that when I first smelled it, it smelled like I was smelling a bottle of bourbon.
Right.
And then I took a sip, and it was kind of thin. The beer was not there to support the bourbon. It really, even the bourbon flavor wasn't overwhelming. But with this, you retain a lot of that body.
Yeah,
again, those oats just give you this kind of velvety.
This mouthfeel on this is just
And if you
wonderful.
look even how
lacing.
it just coats the glass.
You were back to the good lacing versus the older one that didn't lace as well in the glass.
Now, it's funny because the draft had a stronger, like more of a bite.
Yeah.
And then now you have the bourbon, and the bourbon kind of, I think, mellows it out dramatically for me. It's super smooth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so easy to drink, it's kind of scary because, scary in a way that you're like, wow, this will go down very quick, very easy.
And this is a good cellar temp if it's cold. I mean, it is.
Oh, yeah.
We've not mentioned ABV on this. Do they vary?
No. So they're actually, they're pretty much right in line. They all come in at about 10.5.
10.5.
The barrel aging, we do kind of moderate climate control. The big thing is if you have a very humid environment, then you'll start to see that ABV creep up because you'll actually have essentially the water in the beer will try and go into the atmosphere, leaving the alcohol behind.
Right.
So we try and keep it kind of dry and cool in conditions so we don't see really any variance in ABV. But obviously, one of the big things that the barrel does, in addition to that bourbon character, it breathes. So we get some of that micro-oxidation, and that, again, lends to that kind of supple kind of integrated flavor.
Again, it's a little more balanced than the fresh.
Yep.
Right.
So.
Now, have you, in terms of, so if you age this bottle, have you had one that's been sitting for like 2 years? Like a bourbon barrel aged bottle? It's been.
No, because this is actually our first big bourbon barrel release. Yeah. So it will be, that part of the reason why we're wax dipping it is, again, we brewed this beer in the brew house. The recipe is designed for aging.
Okay.
So down to the packaging, the wax dipping further seals off this kind of area to allow oxygen to creep
So
in.
your anticipation is that next year or even a year after, what will that taste like? In comparison to
this, but better. And again, I think we'll start to get more velvety.
Okay, that's what I mean. You're going to see. I mean, it's smooth now.
Yeah.
So you're going to get what it'd be more of an integrated. Everything's going to kind of blend together more.
Yep.
Would you get less bourbon, or you think which one do we think is going to win out? The chocolatey or the bourbon?
I don't know, and that's kind of that's part of and
Okay.
I am too, and that's really why we want to start pushing this. We've really kind of ramped up our barrel aging project in the last even 2 or 3 months because of that. Because we're curious as well. I think the bourbon will probably fade even more into the background, and we'll get more of that. I mean, just that rich chocolate is so so big.
Right.
I don't see that tapering off.
Right.
And meanwhile, the bourbon character is fairly volatile. I mean, we're talking about a spirit character there.
Okay.
And it may subside over time.
Yeah, and those to me are...
Or become more subtle, at least.
Yeah, and those to me are kind of like the high notes, whereas our base notes, which we're going to kind of always retain, is that deep, like, toasty cocoa.
So for you guys who don't care about it being... Or if you find it too bourbony for you, lay up a bottle.
Yeah.
Because you may find it just right for you in
Just do it
year
anyway.
Or two. Do it anyway.
Just do it anyway.
Do it
Again,
anyway.
I hate to say it, but buy two.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Taste what it's
One
taste
now,
what it
one
is
for now, and one for later.
Make your notes and then go, and then next year try to wait 2 years or
Yeah. And that's actually, I mean, that's something that we're going to be doing from time to time in the tasting room as well. We have cellared a bunch of this beer from even the past, so we have 3 vintages now.
Okay.
Starting next year, we'll start doing vertical tastings once in a while in the tasting room. Upwards, I mean, we're shooting to do from probably 5 to 7 year vertical tastings
awesome.
where we'll have all of them on tap at the same time, and you can see the evolution.
Yep.
And again, you know, as brewers, we are also beer drinkers. We have more control over the product that we're drinking. But it's still, you know, we're still home brewers too.
Right.
We want to experiment. We want to,
and we're still figuring out in some cases, like you said today, you don't know what that bottle's going to do over time. For sure, you have hopes and aspirations.
We follow our best practices to ensure that it's going
to
what
others
age
have
with the best. And
but it's a crapshoot in some ways still. To see what it's going to do.
And that's
part of the variety, and that's why we say, you know, experienced craft beer. Don't just suck it down for the alcohol. You've got such a variety and such a palate-pleasing experience. You need to take your time and enjoy that.
Yeah, and it really is. I mean, to me, there's nothing more fun than to see kind of the evolution of a beer. And I mean, I know that craft brewers the world over are constantly even tweaking their own recipes because a perfect beer is very few and far between. And I'm not talking about monumental changes, but very subtle tweaks, and a lot of times not even to recipe, but to process. You can always improve, and the brewer who thinks that he can't improve any further is a stagnant brewer.
He's lost his passion
Exactly. And you know, it's one thing to be very proud of your product, but to be kind of so naive as to think that it can't get better or
that I can't do it again as a brewer. I mean, that's the other part of a brewer is that can you do, if you think it's so great, can you consistently do it that great? Right. Because that's the other key. Thanks so much, John, for having us in. We've really enjoyed this.
That's all right.
Wow, you're going the wrong way on that one. Oh boy.
Thanks for having us in.
Thank you.
And we will remind our viewers again that you've got to pick up some Miller's Toll and maybe get 2 bottles or 3 and lay them up, but experience the beer for yourself the first time so you know what you're going to get in the future years.
Well, come on down to Raleigh Brewing. That's
your way to try.
That's the way to do it.
We're
come on
around
down.
the corner.
Come drink it, and see what you can do.
That's right.
For Dave and Glenn and for Alex, this is the NC Beer Guys, and reminding you to drink local and keep your beer dollars in North Carolina.